How big of an impact will John Mateer make in 2025?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. John Mateer is the biggest talk of the offseason. He was the number one player in the transfer portal and a big get for the Oklahoma Sooners following Ben Arbuckle over from Washington State. But Jay, he comes in at number one, according to ESPN's Tom Luginbill, among players in the transfer portal coming to Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was ranking the best fits for committed transfer portal quarterbacks. And so we all know that you would expect on that list would be one guy down there, and now Miami, because he was able to woo him away from Georgia and Carson Beck. But no, number one on the list is John Mateer, and the quote was fantastic that, Ludenberg put out there. But to me, the thing to keep in mind with this is that what makes it the best connection to me is that you have a quarterback that's following his offensive coordinator. So OC needs to teach personnel how to do their job. You got the quarterback coming in who already knows all of it because he's been underneath it the last 2 years, or two of the last 3 years. And because of that, now he's able to just go run it again and make it happen. So I think it's a great pick. It makes sense. He's got 2 seasons left underneath that he can play. He's got 2 years left of eligibility. So John Mateer's going to have an opportunity to go out there and make himself a legend.
Here's what Tom Luginbill had to say over at ESPN. Mateer is a very tough Mateer is a very tough player to rush because he gets the ball out of his hand fast. He's also a solid runner who can get out of trouble and extend plays. Mateer will be like another coach on the field as he helps tutor the personnel around him. Having a coach and play caller you trust combined with an experienced quarterback could be the magic needed for Oklahoma to get back on track in 2025. And we saw this in the 2022 season, 2023, with Dylan Gabriel and Jeff Lebby being able to have a quarterback that's very, very familiar with the system, bringing all the new guys together. It helped them fast track their understanding of the offense. And John Mateer is going to be able to do something similar for them this year because you're bringing in a number of new players and you've got to get the offensive line up to speed. You got to get the running backs up to speed. So John Mateer is going to be working overtime this offseason trying to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and that's the best part is now with him being here, he can go grab those wide receivers, head over to the facility and say, hey, let's get our timing and everything together, which I've heard he's already done some of that stuff today. He has a similar type personality. I'm hearing more and more like one, Baker Mayfield. Now, I'm not going to compare him to Baker because I have a comparison. I don't know if I've told you my comparison, John. You know what? Let me give you my comparison.
Drop that comp.
This is my comp for John Mateer. He's going to be a better ball placement passing quarterback of Jalen Hurts. They have a similar game style. They both are very quick. They'll tuck and they'll run. They're strong runners. I mean, Hurts is infamous for the 600-pound squat. I think somebody on a broadcast about Mateer said something close to like 600. I'm like, I don't think he's at 600. But hey, if he's 500 or if he is at 600, it makes me look stupid. I can't argue it.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Craziness. I'm not going to argue it, but he's a strong runner. That's a part of his game. He will tuck and he will go. Plus he gets the ball really, really quickly. He has a little sidearm thing that he does that I've seen a couple of times, and he'll also launch it and hit that over the shoulder pass. So he reminds me a lot of how Jalen Hurts was when he came here, and statistically not that far off. I mean, Hurts had 1,298 yards rushing, just under 13,000 yards rushing at quarterback. Absurd, I know, right? And he was number 2 in the Heisman, just bananas. But he also ran for like 20 touchdowns. Mateer, 800 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns. Passing, Hurts had 4,000 yards, just about 4,000 yards passing. Mateer had 3,100. So similar game style when it comes to being here in comparison, when him being underneath Ben Arbuckle in comparison to like when Jalen Hurts was at Alabama. But to me, that's where the game style is going to be. A passer that's a little bit better than Hertz, but doesn't run as strong, but he's a strong runner. I 100% see it. He's going to be Jalen Hurts 2.0 for us.
I think there's a fair comp to be made there. I'd probably go with a Will Howard or a Riley Leonard, who you're seeing playing in the national championship game coming up. But
good too.
Just guys that are athletic quarterbacks that can throw the ball, that are able to make plays in both the pass and the run game. And I think the leadership aspect is going to be important here too, because you've got a guy that's had a lot of success, even though it's just 1 year of starting, and maybe they didn't play an SEC schedule, but he had a lot of success. He's got confidence to build upon. He's got the familiarity with the offense that is going to allow him and the guys on offense to be comfortable with what they're doing, as opposed to what we saw in 2024. There was a lot of discomfort with what Oklahoma was trying to do. Nothing was simple in the offense for much of the last season. And I think what we're going to see is Ben Arbuckle simplifying some things, but also John Mateer making some things look simple. You know, the easy pass, he's going to hit him. He's not going to struggle with the gimmies, where we saw maybe Oklahoma quarterbacks struggle with the gimmies a little bit more in 2024. But I think there's so many aspects of this that are going to be better at quarterback. But a lot of what I've said earlier this week even is that the proof's going to be in the pudding. You know, how good this offense is going to be, we'll see. You get a good test in week 2 against Michigan, and then in week 4 against Auburn. So, you know, your first 4 weeks, you're going to see 2 really good defenses, and you're going to find out pretty quickly about how good this team can be. But so much of how good this team is going to be dependent on how good the offense is going to be. And if the offense is 31 points per game, 35 points per game, Oklahoma's going to be cooking in 2025.
All you got to do is be competent. And you've already seen the best part about the Mateer piece is that he has the production. He has physically played college football, and usually those guys do translate over to the next place they go. We saw Cam Ward go from Washington State right down there into Miami and end up going to New York. You've seen that Riley Leonard going from Duke into Notre Dame. Will Howard going from Kansas State up to Ohio State. They were able to replicate some of their production going up, and all they needed was to go up there and do was be competent and replicate some of it. We're seeing that. We'll be able to see that now with Mateer. He'll walk in here. I mean, don't get twisted. The SEC has seen a ton of quarterbacks walk in there as transfers that didn't even have production and show out. Jaden Daniels probably the best one. He won the Heisman. Now, he's a very special talent, but did people really think that he was going to be able to do what he did at Arizona State, which honestly wasn't a lot? He's exceeded that dramatically.
Yeah.
So that's not a very uncommon piece. You see transfer quarterbacks come to the SEC quite often. The question is can these defenses stop them the second season? It's never the first. It's the second season. And if Mateer can go out there and show out year 1, we'll be good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's a number of quarterbacks. Diego Pavia.
Right.
Jackson Dart.
There's another one.
I mean, a lot of good quarterbacks.
Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker.
Even Joe Milton, even though he wasn't the greatest, but Joe Milton was
good.
Yeah, he was good enough.
They were putting up numbers. Spencer Rattler had some big games. Even if he wasn't perfect for South Carolina, he had some big games.
Games.
Yeah, you've seen transfer quarterbacks have success in the SEC, just to support your point there. Even in recent years, you know, guys coming from USC or New Mexico State. So the level of competition is vastly different between New Mexico State and beating Alabama.
Yep.
You know, the level of competition is very, very different. So as much as we want to kind of wait and see what this offense is going to look like with John Mateer, I don't think it's unreasonable to have high expectations, because we have seen quarterbacks with the kind of intangibles that John Mateer possesses, the leadership capabilities, the experience that he has, be able to have success in year 1 in the SEC.
Yeah.
A lot of changes coming on the business front for Oklahoma and the NCAA. We'll discuss all that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
This message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying the football action. Now it's playoff time. There's no better way to get into action than Prize Picks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your pick hits, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a simple pick. And so, like for me, I am keeping up with Derrick Henry, 96.5 rushing yards. I'm gonna go more against the Bills, no matter what you say, because you compare him with Lamar Jackson at 52.5 rushing yards. I'll probably go less because I think Derrick Henry would do most of the work. But you can even look more into, as well as CJ Stroud at half a passing touchdown. Come on, guys. We got CJ Stroud's going to score some touchdowns. So you go in there and you can check it out. With all those picks, you get your winnings fast and sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. So ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Just tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. You want to be a part of our next mailbag segment? Make sure you drop a question on YouTube or on social media. Just tag mailbag in the comments so we know to look for it and we can feature it on one of our upcoming shows. Jay, there's been some changes in the Oklahoma Sooners administration. Curtis Lofton, the general manager for the program, for the football program, has resigned, citing a desire to pursue a calling in the ministry.
Yeah, first off, proud of him for that. When the calling comes, you should take it. You know, it's always something you feel in your spirit whenever you do it. You know, especially for those believers or whatnot. I definitely appreciate that is the direction he probably wants to go for himself. And there's been rumors about, potential changes and stuff going on at the front office there at Oklahoma, because now we're about to get into the new era of, college football civilization. Things are about to really start changing, and it's going to be fast and furious. So him deciding that, this is probably the best time for me to step away come February 1st is what he said on Facebook. February 1st, he steps away, and then you're going to see a new regime in the front office and running things, probably headed up by Jake Rosenberg and his the athletic group, consultation group around this stuff. So they'll probably help implant who will be the new general manager, get everything up and running. But of course, we wish Curtis Lofton the best going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting timing because we're starting to see more clarity come out with the revenue sharing, with the future of collectives and Title IX and how all this is going to come to be in the future. But Oklahoma's they're restructuring and they're trying to create a situation. And I say restructuring. Curtis Lofton stepping away is not, it's his decision. I think he would have been very much a part of the program and a part of the future had he stayed. It's going to be fascinating to see what the GM role looks like moving forward, because GM roles in professional sports, they handle all kinds of decision-making, from revenue distribution, like the salary cap, how to delineate who gets what at what position groups, how much they prioritize certain position groups, the vision for a program, the vision for a team. Generally, that's been the head coach. Usually the head coach is the one driving the vision for a program. How much will the general manager have a say in how the vision for the program looks? How much will they have a say in player acquisition? Because at the NFL level, Major League Baseball, NBA, we got a guy in Sam Presti in Oklahoma City who is very much guiding the direction in the future of Oklahoma City Thunder basketball. So how much will they have a say in it? That's going to be the part I'm really curious about, because for 100 years, the head coach has been the owner, the GM, the president, the vice president of player operations, the head coach. He's been everything. He's been the cap manager, whether it was legal or illegal. He was the dude running all of it. The head scout, all of it. So I'm curious to see how this looks, because it wouldn't surprise me to see former GMs come into the college ranks, getting opportunities because of their experience at the NFL level. You're seeing a Michael Lombardi, who had a lot of years of experience with the New England Patriots and across the NFL. He's following Bill Belichick to North Carolina. So again, just fascinated. After years of covering the NFL, now that world is merging with my college football coverage.
It is, yeah. It's becoming all the same and like you said, you'll probably see even more younger guys too get those opportunities and the chance to be able to prove themselves. They may have been wanting a opportunity to get out there and become a GM, and they probably got overlooked, which is quite common at the at the NFL, right? Because it's only 32 jobs. Now it's 131 opportunities for you to learn, at least cut your teeth. And how to do at the D1 level where there's more money to deal with. And if you want to go lower, you can. But they're going to get a true opportunity to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I could totally see some of the younger GMs coming up and coming guys getting leaving the NFL, coming to try to learn how to deal with this monster, which is a great way of proving your ability to handle chaos. Could lead you right back to the NFL. So, I think you're spot on too here, John. I wonder, because this is the question I have, is what Brent Venables' involvement is going to be in this. I honestly feel like, depending on who he decides to get in at defensive coordinator, if he doesn't do it himself, this will lead to an opportunity where he can truly go into a CEO role, and he has very heavy involvement with his GM on how that's ran. That would be very fascinating to me on how exactly he wants to do this, because it makes a lot of sense for BV to be involved with trying to figure out the money portion of it, because here's where the struggle comes in to me, John. No matter what you do, after a season is complete, players are going to ask for more money. You get them in, they're willing to show their worth, and if they start showing their worth, they're going to ask for more money. And the reason is because no matter what, others are going to ask the same thing. Other schools are going to be looking at them like, hey, we got a starting spot open. You can be a backup there, but you can come start here. In which, to be honest, isn't that what fans wanted? Didn't they want parity? More good players spread around so more teams like, Ohio State and Notre Dame can play in the national championship? That's what everybody, says they want until it actually happens. So you're going to have to manage that money, that cap, like you said, merging the two worlds of the pros to college, of managing that number, because once you get that cap number during this current TV contract era, you have to ask the question of, how much do I allot to this guy? Does my quarterback, does John Mateer get, we're going to allot him 15% of the cap? We're going to allot the offensive line the additional 15%, and the defensive line another 15%. Or, you can go 20, 40, 60, and then the rest is just leftovers, and you get like one big name player, and the rest are whoever. No matter what, that money's going to have to keep being balanced. That budget sheet's going to be managed every single week. And that's what's going to be a fascinating thing to see how they figure that out.
And it makes me wonder, because again, a lot of times the alignment between the GM and the head coach is so important, so that the GM is acquiring players that fit what the head coach is wanting to accomplish. So you're not ending up bringing in a Jonte Cook that's not going to be a program fit for Oklahoma or Washington or maybe even Texas
or anybody else. Yeah.
And so how much do they work in concert? And that is where the Jim Knowles piece makes a lot of sense, man. If they are able to somehow, some way lure him away from Ohio State, plug him in as the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma, it really frees Brent Venables up to just be a part of the CEO aspect and then the player acquisition aspect, working with the GM and their scouting department and really honing in on the players that they want for the program. And that's where you see good NFL programs, NFL organizations work really, really well, is the head coach goes to the GM and says, hey, this is what I'm looking for. The GM says, what I need. Yeah. The GM says, bet, here's how we're going to prioritize what you're looking for. And here's how we're going to prioritize it against the cap and with our draft compensation, our draft slots. We're not going to go draft a kicker in the first round like the Raiders did once upon a time. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to prioritize the positions that matter the most on a football field. And then they just kind of work in harmony. And I'm also curious about this, and this might be a discussion for another time, but is there a former player out there that, like Curtis Lofton, could be a fit as a GM for the Oklahoma Sooners? Not one like jumps off the top of my head, but I'm sure that there are guys out there that got the business acumen to be able to step into that kind of a role.
Yeah. That's the question, is what former player do we feel like could possibly do that? I guess to even add to that, what former player has some actual experience in at least scouting to be able to do that? That's a good question.
I'm gonna get the Googles out and we'll talk about that sometime next week. But Jay, the NCAA is creating more advice or offering more structure, maybe, or more guidance, or not so much guidance on NIL and the future of rev sharing at the collegiate level. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting because right now, new customers can bet $5 and you get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. It's $300 to keep the action going. So like me, I'm looking at this national championship right now, and as much as I enjoy our people over there at Notre Dame, but Ohio State's in here in -8.5, whoo, man. That just feels a little high. I think it's going to be a game that's worth looking at. And if you want to jump into that action, you can. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We got a lot of changes happening in college football. One of them, significant news out today. This is from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. Significant news out today from the U.S. Department of Education, which classifies future revenue distributions from a school to an athlete for his or her NIL rights as financial assistance. That's one part here, which must be made proportionately available to male and female athletes or risk violating Title IX. Jay, break this down for the people.
All right. So for the uninitiated, those that don't, I've read through a lot of the comments and man, it's bad. A lot of people don't understand truly how Title IX works. So quick crash course on it. Title IX make sure that the opportunity that's provided to male athletes are also allowed to female athletes. And the perfect example of how Title IX is not as proportional as you would like it to be, but it is available, is look at football compared to every other sport. Football has more scholarships than all female sports combined. And it's mainly because football requires more athletes. But the opportunities there, that's why some schools, you don't see soccer there, but you see women's soccer. Right? You'll see that because that's a way to make it proportionate because they can find additional sports or volleyball. You'll see women's volleyball, but no men's volleyball because, and depending on where you're at, you'll see men's, but you don't see men's in a lot of places because you're making those numbers proportionate and available. So with this, what this is really telling us, John, is that what Oklahoma would have to do if they decided that they wanted John Mateer to be in commercials for the school and they want to compensate him for that, or if they decide that Peyton Bowen's going to be the face of the defense, him and Kip Lewis, and they want to put them in advertisements, billboards, things of that nature, that opportunity also needs to be afforded to a female athlete. You know, you can have beers up there. You have beers, fears, and Mateers all together, and we can put cheers right underneath it, right? Just like the TV show. So but if you do that, you have to make sure that if the school is compensating them, it has to be even. This doesn't talk about anything outside of them. These are for like private donations, even raised by booster clubs and such. But if Boost Mobile decides to do something, AT&T, Verizon, can't do nothing about that. That's nothing to do with the school providing or facilitating the funding. So keep that in mind when you read that.
Yeah, if Brahms comes to Oklahoma and says, hey, we want to do a deal with your offense and defensive lines.
Please do it, Brahms.
Yeah, Brahms, if you're listening, then there doesn't have to be this equal opportunity. This is simply if the school is going to provide, and I think it'll probably play out in some of the rev share stuff as well, too. There's got to be something that's going to be going. Now, football might take up a lot of that, but you're going to see softball and women's basketball earn some as well because they do earn. But yeah, I think we'll see more clarity on all of this over the next few years as this gets implemented and programs try to figure out how to to make it all work together. But as NIL starts getting and shifting in-house, those opportunities are going to be there. I mean, the softball program is going to have a lot of opportunities in the name, image, and likeness arena. Same with women's basketball. I mean, there are stars on the women's basketball team, the gymnastics team, the women's gymnastics team. There are stars out there in the women's sports arena for Oklahoma that are going to see just as many opportunities as some of the male athletes as well.
Heavy benefits because I mean, so many people are marketable. It's really, that's what NIL is about. And I think it's the only thing that I haven't liked about NIL and how it's been set up and done. It's been leveraged as a way to funnel money to players in whatever way is possible. Right. When in all actuality, the essence of it is about people marketability and doing marketing deals. I mean, I wasn't mad at Texas when they had their pancake fund and they were giving offensive linemen $50,000 initially. Well, I thought it was cool. It's like the barbecue joint that was giving Arkansas offensive linemen NIL deal. That's what you market for. That's the stuff you're supposed to do with this. I think it was Ohio State that had an offensive lineman that had like mountain candles or something. He like Blueberry Mountain. It was like scented candles. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But you get cool creative stuff like that. That's what you expect. Then the collective piece came in and like, you know what? We're just going to start outbidding everybody. Mm-hmm. I think that part of it's going to go away because as it talks about the external factors of like booster clubs and raising private funds, that to me is going to be the thing that's going to make things really change heavily when it comes to NIL at this level. But the other thing too, John, is these are just guidelines. These aren't rules. These are just stuff that's in preparation. And we've got the new administration being put into office on Monday. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know what the Senate and the House is going to try to figure out, because that's one thing I've heard a few of them pledge. They're going to fix this. It's going to be really hard to do this and not trigger a bunch of antitrust laws. That's the kind of the key thing. You've got to make sure that doesn't happen. So I think for me, the fascinating piece, John, is I want to see how they handle this cap portion. We talked about it in the last segment. How are they going to be able to handle the distribution of the funds from the amount of money that's going to be allowed from all the revenue that comes in from television? And because all of this is for media rights deals. How they're going to be able to take that money, distribute it among the sports, and then distribute it among the team. That, to me, is going to be the fascinating question, and seeing how that actually goes.
Yeah, so the GM role at Oklahoma is honestly bigger than anybody at a professional franchise, where you have one team to manage. I mean, Sam Presti, God love you, you're doing a great job with Oklahoma City, but that's one team.
Yes.
And 12 to 14 players plus, some, what do they call it now? The G League? Is that what the developmental league is called? You got some guys maybe in the G League that you got to worry about, and you got summer league and all that. You're not trying to manage football, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's gymnastics, baseball, softball, women's soccer, men's golf, tennis, track and field. That's a whole different animal where you're going to have a GM, and you're probably going to have a number of assistant GMs to help manage all this. So, hey, if you got a business mind and you love sports, I bet there's going to be some potential openings coming up at the University of Oklahoma to help get all this stuff underway and figure out how to best manage it, because there's going to be a lot to manage. It's going to be a lot to manage, and it's going to be way more than what the athletic director is used to with all the revenue and trying to figure out how to best facilitate all that revenue sharing and prioritize the revenue sharing. It's going to be very interesting. The athletic director might kind of turn into like the owner role, and hopefully not the Jerry Jones owner role, but the owner role that's like, hey, I'm just going to be here to help support and facilitate everything that happens in the athletic department, as opposed to like heavy-handedly telling each program and team what they have to do. Anyway, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see. I know that we'll have some 30 for 30 documentaries on this down the road that will look back on this and talk about how crazy it is. But I'm kind of with you, man. Like, the way NIL has played out isn't what was intended.
It's not the essence of what this was supposed to be here for.
No.
And we need to get back to that. Give me back to the essence. I want to see some good commercials.
Yeah.
I want to see some cool stuff like that.
Right.
I ain't trying to see all of this this mess that we're dealing with now.
I want to see some stuff like Major League and the Amex, the American Express, credit card commercial.
There
where
you go.
Wesley Snipes is sliding into home. Don't steal home without it. Anyway.
That was a good one. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
And we are digressing here as we get ready to finish up today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel on YouTube, Unfair Sports. Follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Pinterest, everywhere you get your social media. Pinterest is out. It's for the ladies. The ladies will find it.
Yeah, fine.
And they'll enjoy it while they're checking
They'll
out.
enjoy our voices. That's what's going to be
right.
important.
That's right.
While
They're checking out interior decor for this spring, they can also hear our latest shorts over there on Pinterest as well. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. Pinterest. I love it.
Got to be on everywhere. We're going to be everywhere.